My name is Kaddy Jobe again, and welcome to the show Think Big with ARPS Media with my co-moderator Yankuba. We move on to manifestos, policies, visions, and missions. Mr. Darboe, you have been quiet for a while. I'll pose you this question so that you can interact with us again. How do you plan to ensure that your proposed policies and innovatives are feasible to achieve within the constraint of the UTG resources?
All right. Thank you so much, Kaddy, for giving me that opportunity to explore more on my policies. I've been quite a lot, as you said, because I have nothing to discuss on that. As I was highlighting that Darboe is the most incompetent, right? It's true that is it his quality, his abilities are a good debater, but I'm more of a writer. But I didn't want to go deep into that. I want to go straight to my policies. So one, the policies I have is how do we eradicate partisan politics in our UTG, right? How do we eradicate it? Partisan politics have been perennial problems in our universities, right? But this is not to say partisan politics is bad. It is not. We are social creatures. We want to belong to groups. And again, what makes partisan politics more indispensable is that instead of having Athenian democracy, where all students getting involved, right, it is a brilliant idea for them to join camps so that we make the process more representative, right? Study how the human ego can be, because people normally want domination and power, right? Or say thinking that they are the most experienced, right? Now, in recent years, we are witnessing fight and hate and police cases in our university. Why is that? Why? So my role as a presidential candidate, this is what I want to solve, right? How am I going to solve it? First of all, is to remind them that universities are not place where we fight. Universities are place where ideas will fight, right? And again, when I'm president, I'm going to remind them that there's no alliance UTG or the coalition UTG. There's one UTG. And again, when I'm president, how I'm going to solve the partisan divide is by sending a bill to the Legislative Council, right? That will contain that if you run for once, you know, run again. In that way, the partisan divide will be totally reduced, if not eradicated, right? So moving on to my second policy is how do I restore the reputation of UTG? Because in recent years, we have seen this allegation in all social media feeds that students in UTG do engage themselves in academic fraud. Why is that? Because we have seen it, seen the evidence on What's on Gambia, on Ketfatu, on Fatu Network, everywhere we've seen it. My role as a candidate is to assess what is the cause of the lack of seriousness among the students. But you'll be surprised that the activities surrounding our student leadership, including that of Saho's camp, the coalition camp, they instill more values of fun than values of academic. Why is that? Because we've seen this evidence in frequent retreats they conduct and Students Week. So that's why when I'm president, I make sure we invest more on the talents the students have. In that way, the students, in that way, our university will be turned to a place of academy rather than a place of fun, right? In that way, the reputation too will be restored. So that is the second policy I have. The third policy, that is the transport, right? Because we are now in Faraba, right? Transport is a major challenge. But you'll be surprised that when the issue of Faraba came, this Saho scam and that of Nyaninka, they were all pessimistic, right? They even held a press conference saying we are not moving there an inch, right? We were the one who was advocating for students to go to Faraba and meeting with the ministers, interviewing him of the plans he had for us in Faraba. Now there's a transport difficulty, right? You'll be surprised that the buses are still not enough. We have 18, and kudos to the ministry for paying 15 million annually to sustain those buses in the ground. Again, our university to have 5 buses, or the 2 that have been secured by the 19th Executive Council. But when you add these buses together, there's nothing less than 25, right? But these buses are still not enough. They're still not enough. Why are they not enough? One, drivers have an attitude. Those bus drivers have an attitude that instead of all 18 buses to be on the ground, sometimes there will be 11. Why is that? And the 2 buses that have been secured by the 19th Executive Council to be used by the students, I got denied because lecturers will tell the students that you will not enter these buses. Why is that? problems make the bus transportation more difficult because we have seen evidence last semester that students will stand inside the bus from Westfield to Faraba, Brikama to Faraba in long distances. We have seen evidence of students stranded in Faraba campus up to 10 o'clock p.m., right? And I'm foreseeing the worst to come this semester because School of Business and Public Administration made a partial relocation to Faraba campus last semester, and this semester they are coming in full, right? A lot of UTG, lot of new students within and outside the Gambia have seen how UTG have changed, and they are eager. They are eager to know what is in Faraba because they have seen we have a new campus now. They want to explore it, and that's going to even make the bus transportation more difficult, right? So how do we solve the bus transportation system? How do we solve it? First, with the government, since we were the one who supported him from the very start when he was advocating for Faraba, we were the one, our unionist team, we were the one who accepted that idea. So we're going to go back to him and tell him, look, these buses are still not enough. But I believe the best idea will be we got to invest on those minivan drivers and taxi drivers so that we can make a garage at Faraba campus. In that way, the bus transportation system will be
Thank you
limited,
very
if not
much.
total.
Thank you very much, Mr. Darboe. Still on the topic of manifestos, policies, visions, and missions. I'll come to you, Mr. Saho, Mr. Alieu Saho. My question to you is what mechanisms will you put in place to solicit the ongoing feedback from the student body and adapt to your vision and mission accordingly?
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Kaddy. I have mentioned in just the last time I spoke that as far as this election is concerned, I am only presidential candidate with a complete team of competent individuals. And amongst the policies of my team is to make sure that we have an inclusive government. And that inclusive government is a type of government that would engage students as much as possible when it comes to getting the feedbacks from students. And I would rather you aim it like us as an executive adapting to the vision of students of the University of the Gambia. That is why, under the dynamic leadership of my vice president, Madam Fatma Nyang, we has a policy that would introduce what we call the complaint tracker. And the complaint tracker is not just it's going to be because of technology today and the advancement of the world. We realize that various schools in the University of the Gambia, and I believe UTG students, you must have also seen this. We have suggestion box in some schools, and some of these suggestion boxes are very ineffective. And we have moved to a digital world. So under her dynamic leadership, we are going to come up with what we know as the complaint tracker. And this complaint tracker is going to be shared across the schools of the University of the Gambia, where students across all the schools of the university will have the opportunity to channel their complaints and their concerns through that tracker, which would be taken up by their vice presidents, the vice presidents of the faculty-based associations, so that it would be channeled to the vice president of the students' union, and we would take it up from there by listening to the complaints that are being shared by students of the University of the Gambia and making sure that our leadership is aligned in accordance with the demands of the students. So I would like to say that our leadership is not one that wants students, I'm sorry if I rephrase the question, but our leadership is one that wants to adhere to the vision of students of the University of the Gambia at large, or to the vision of majority of students of the University of the Gambia. And this is a fundamental principle on which my camp, the coalition, which as far as politics is concerned, is the most successful and the most progressive in the University of the Gambia, has been built on. And whenever it comes to making decisions that affect the life of students of the University of the Gambia, leadership has made it a priority to consult with students and make sure we act in accordance with the demands of the students. And we have done this in several cases. For example, when the movement to Faraba came, as my opponent rightly mentioned, there was a consultation with students of the University of the Gambia through their representatives. And the student representatives said that they did not want to move to Faraba because the basic necessities were unavailable, and that was what the coalition leadership followed. Also, when the examination was set to happen 2 weeks with very congested time frame for students of the University of the Gambia, another consultation was made by the coalition leadership to see what the views of the students are as far as that is concerned. And that is the type of leadership that we have provided for 2 years. So that is the kind of leadership we want to make sure that we listen to the voices of students of the University of the Gambia. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saho. Mr. Manjang, my question to you is, what past and current student-related issues have influenced your development and nature of your manifesto?
Okay, thank you so much, madam. As rightly said, experience, competency, the willingness and the ability to serve selflessly should be the core values of every transformative leadership as well. And as an individual who is not a newbie when it comes to university politics and also student governance, I've gathered wealth of experience in understanding the students' plight, what they need and what they deserve, to have within the University of the Gambia. And looking at UTG Act 1990, Section 4 looks into the aims and objectives of University of the Gambia, which remains sacrosanct, which is not a priority, but they are fundamental rights, because right to quality education is a fundamental right to every university students. And also looking into the Tertiary and Higher Education Act 2016, Section 16 looks into the function of the Governing Council. When I made mention of the Governing Council, I mean this is the highest authority within the University of the Gambia, where policies are reviewed and formulated, and which the President will be sitting at. Knowing fully well within the University of the Gambia, there are problems across sub-associations, but there are peculiar problems across the entire University of the Gambia, which remain to exist, even councils continue to exert power. Therefore, key among the problems within the past and current is the issue of transportation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the issue of transportation, you will understand it remains persistent, and it has, given the University of the Gambia student body really a psychological trauma, because mobility is important. You cannot get to destination if there is no proper transportation. The health and safety of students also matters. So looking at issue of transportation, you will understand that data is not well respected. Scientists use data to solve societal problems. And therefore, University of the Gambia, as the only public state university, is struggling with transportation issue. I believe they should go back to the drawing board and look into the data to understand the total number of university students must align with the available resources. There was contract signed between MOHAS, that is Minister of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, with, and this contract, the agreement, based on this contract is not known by the student government.
Mr. Manjang, I'll have to interrupt there for a minute. Like Mr. Yankuba said in the beginning of the debate session, you guys are limited to a 3-minute time, in which we'll give you additional 2 minutes. So if you are speaking, you can consider the time frame. We'll move on to other debate topics. It's going to be a heated one. Mr. Yankuba, my co-moderator, to you.
I think we are not hearing Yankuba. I don't know.
Oh, okay. All right. Am I audible? All right. So instead of giving you guys 2 minutes to counter the previous speaker's points, I will give you now 1 minute, because I know, some of you have some points that you want to raise, because you feel like the previous speaker mentioned things that need to be clarified. So I will start with Darboe. You're saying that the UTG needs to restore its image, because outside the UTG might be perceived as a university that is like sex for grade, right? So Saho, how do you see that point? Is that something that the UTG, like reputation, is the UTG's reputation affected by some of the events or incidents that happened, let's say last year, regarding some of the scandals like sex for grade? Is that affecting the UTG, as Darboe wants to put it?
Thank you very, very much. But I would appreciate we say the alleged scandal. And I think to a larger extent, I think to a larger extent, it has affected the reputation reputation of the university as it would any university across the world. If such things are mentioned about any university, it does affect the reputation of the university. But what I do not agree with is his policy regarding addressing that, because first of all, he does not know the steps that are to be taken. And as far as I am concerned, and based on the message that I've received from my email, there was an investigation into this matter by the University of the Gambia management, and the culprits, or the alleged culprits, were all given the punishment that they deserve. But I think if he wants to address this policy, my question to him is, what practical solution does he have? Because when we met on TV, when we met at QTV, he was asked this question about the practical solution. What is he going to do to address it? But I think that is needed for him to answer. What is he going to do to address the reputation?
All right, fine. So Darboe, later you can respond to that. For now, let me go to Manjang just quickly. Manjang, if he can allow me, he brags about, like he said that he has a team of competent members. Like, is it that his team has more competent members than your camp? How do you feel about that? How does that make you feel?
Well, I think Mr. Saho needs to read history to understand what to say, to be backed by evidence and data. If you look at University of the Gambia, I don't blame him, because he just came to university not long ago, and as a senior student within the University of the Gambia since 2019. I believe when it comes to competency, even the coalition government will tell you that no matter what, with regards to your candidates, competency is not something that we can question them, because we take our candidates through a rigorous, and since 2013 alliance was established, and therefore if you know Mfaldi Fadera was an alliance member, if you know Mustafa Paragon was a former alliance member, if you know Ibrahim Sonko was a former alliance member, if you know Modou Mbub was a former alliance member, if you know Seniba, who is the current lecturer at the University of the Gambia, was former alliance leader. So
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Saho, you can reserve. Yes.
Please,
so just briefly, because
I'm just giving preamble for him to understand that alliance never produce incomplete.
That's fine.
Also, with regards to his question, complete team. If he is to be fair to you people, he should have explained to you what must have triggered my team and I in going into the pools with an incomplete team. It is as a result of litigation.
That's fine. I have to intervene. Sorry, Manjang, I have to intervene. Let me intervene. Yes, let me intervene, because we are running out of time. It's almost, we only have 6 minutes to before the end of the first hour. Yes, fine. So let's move on to the. Yes, I know you have a lot to say. I understand, and I think we give you at least 60 seconds, more than that. So now I'll move on to the section about institutional building. So this question will go to you, Manjang, right? Since if you can allow me to say this, you've portrayed yourself as the most, as the oldest president, as the oldest student, or the most senior student. Don't put it that way. You portrayed yourself as the most senior student, because you spend more time at the university than any of these two. So now, how do you envision promoting a culture of collaboration and teamwork within the UTGSU executive and among its members?
Well, Mr. Yankuba, there is this proverb which says, you cannot know more than your father. I think this is a proverb that can clearly explain itself, because experience is the best teacher. And I believe this is not to be bragged about, which they always said in all the platforms that, that I boost to be the most experienced candidate. This experience is backed by evidence. And therefore, I will not sit here to brag about my experience. My experience comes with, development, because politics for development is what I believe in. Now, with regards to collaboration, I believe as outgoing Vice President of Social Sciences and Humanities Students Association. Diversity, tolerance, and collaboration is something that I've learned throughout my tenure as the principal assistant to the president. I've collaborated within the University of the Gambia, outside the University of the Gambia, through institutions outside the University of the Gambia. And within the executive level, I can tell you for free, politics of affiliation is not something that I envision, because the will of the majority will manifest, and therefore, not all cannot be in the same camp. Like I will always say, you cannot tie every bull by their horns. We must have different views and other related issues as far as politics is concerned. And as an experienced individual, I've worked currently in my council, people that are from other camps, but I was able to build a very cordial and resilient, conducive environment to foster the agenda that we all envision for. Because at the end of the day, it is not a coalition, it is not unionist, it is not alliance, but UTG students' body that matters to us as individuals. I believe with this I can. Thank you.
Yankuba, you are muted, please.
Oh, okay. All right. So I was asking Saho what strategies he plans to implement so that there'll be diversity, there'll be a promotion of diversity and inclusion, SU leadership and decision-making process. Let me just repeat this so you understand. What strategies will you implement, Mr. Saho, to improve diversity and inclusion within the UTGSU's leadership and decision-making process? Sorry, I was muted.
No, it's fine. Thank you very much. Before I answer that question, I would like to address two more things. Now, my Nyaninka said something that is very important, that you cannot know more than your father. And I believe as far as University of the Gambia leadership is concerned, I am the father, because I have served in more leadership positions than the both of them combined. And that should account for something. The experience I have gained in the university is one that neither of them has, single-handedly. He also made mention that he has been in the university. I am new in the university. I'm in my final year in the University of the Gambia, so I am not new. And if he has been here since 2019, then that says a lot, because 2019 to date is more than 5 years. And the degree program in the University of the Gambia is 4 years, with the exception of medical school. But to just answer your question with regards to what strategies I will implement to promote diversity and inclusion in the UTGSU leadership and decision-making process. When you look at the coalition as a political camp and our leadership and the team that I have, the complete team that I've mentioned earlier, you come to realize as a presidential candidate, I would not sit here and say I'm going to do it alone, because I have a team of individuals that I intend to work with. And the strategies that we intend to do is the strategies that we have continued doing as a camp. That is to ensure that we reach out to the students of the University of the Gambia. And this again would lead me back to the complaint tracker that I've mentioned. I believe it's an effective strategy, receiving the complaints from the diverse population of the University of the Gambia. And this would go a long way into addressing that. Not only that, but under my office, as part of my policies, to promote inclusivity in the University of the Gambia, is to also include the persons living with disabilities in the University of the Gambia, by making sure that the policy document, which is the disability policy, is expedited at the Governing Council of the University of the Gambia. And as far as diversity is concerned and promotion of inclusivity when it comes to people from diverse background, I believe that the coalition as a political camp has proven that beyond any other political camp. And when I said that I was the one with the most complete and competent team, I was not talking about the past leadership. I was talking about the team of leaders that we have produced in this election. And I would reiterate that there is no team that is as competent as the team of leaders that are with me in this election. So let's not get into who was part of the party. The glory of people in the past is not what we rely on. I rely on what me and my team can do for the University of the Gambia.
Okay, all right. I think Manjang got that, right? Because you were trying to clarify that point for him. So now I'll
No,
move on to
can
Mr.
I,
Darboe.
can I
Okay,
right?
Manjang, hang on. I know you have some. You must have something to put forward to counter what Alieu said. But just wait. Just let me go to Darboe. Then I'll allow you to respond to that. So now,
Yeah.
Mr. Darboe, if you are elected into office, which is what you hope for, what institutional building initiatives would you implement to improve students' learning experience and employability and leave a positive legacy for future UTGSU leaders?
Thank you so much. That's a very wonderful question. Just before going to that question, I'd like to what they are bragging about, saying that they are the most experienced. Nyaninka,
Okay.
he's the father. Like Saho's too, he's the father. Well, I'm not the father. I'm the son. I'm the son here, right? So to Nyaninka, you bragging about your experience. I'm surprised that you are now turning to be a politician. You're not a leader, because leaders respect the constitution. For God's sake, you are now in your 10th semester, right? You didn't need politicians here. We need leaders, for God's sake. Okay, so moving on to your question, the the experience and the employability, leaving a positive legacy for future UTGSU leaders, I think that have to do with um, right, finance, because we know finance is a major challenge. Students in UTG really struggle, right, for employment. Even after UTG, they struggle, and now they're gonna get a job, right? And again, even though we know the government of the Gambia, through MOPSI and MOHAS, does a lot to sponsor UTG students, right? Even non-governmental organizations like UNICEF, MRC Holland, and Key Group Foundation, they do a lot. But as a presidential candidate and as the author of Smiling Coast, the employability, those aspects, I believe my experience as being an author, I believe relying on the government makes you poor. Because when the government sponsors you, they're going to dictate your life, right? But as an author, you guys will be surprised how much money I have gained by authoring those two books alone. So my role as a candidate when I'm president is to do just that. To do just that. That means to help tap in the potential of the students in UTG, because I believe students in UTG are genius. Not ordinary students come to UTG. In fact, you have to get the certain requirements. They're coming with so much talents. So as an author, you just have to tap into that, onto their talents, right? We have to invest on them. You have to invest on the talents they have. So instead of relying with the government or their families in terms of scholarship or jobs, their talents can give that money to them. But I believe that can be done by me. It cannot be done by the coalition camp or alliance camp. It can be done by the unionist camp, who is going to tap on the talents of the students in UTG. In that way, all the future presidents that will ever come to UTGSU will remember the legacy that Darboe have left behind.
Thank you for responding. For some reason, so how would you respond to that? What would you say to them? And then they say they don't
So,
need a politician. It's like you are now turning into a politician instead of like becoming a leader. So what do you have to say to them?
I think these two individuals seated here, I am their servant. We are all from the same school. I am their vice president. If they are to tell you the honest truth, they should distinguish chaff from the grain. I am a politician, yes, student politician, but politics for development. And if they are to be honest with you, they have to tell you the honest truth that have served them selflessly without, in fact, compromising based on our political affiliation, based on our relationship as colleagues, but I've served to my utmost best. Now, the 10 semesters that they are talking about, I believe their ignorance of law and policy within the University of the Gambia has manifested before the entire globe. That is to say, there is no Senate resolution. The Senate is the highest academic body within the University of the Gambia. And there is no Senate resolution which says that if you are in your 10 semesters, that you should graduate. What was said is, on what is stipulated in the policy, as far as Senate is concerned, in as much as you did not collect your attestation, you are still a university student. But if you do not, or you collected your attestation as an individual, you cease not to be a university student. And one thing that they should understand is, perhaps they met me in University of the Gambia. They don't know my financial backgrounds. Do they? They don't know how I managed to pay my tuition fee. Do they? They don't know. I think they need to understand. People have been within the university space for more than 7 years just to back their degree. You don't know their constraint. Perhaps their working time is not giving them the availability to do all their courses. And secondly, as an individual, I believe I'm proud of myself, maybe spending 10 semesters that they claim in all the platforms that you go to, that they will tell me that I'm in my 10 semesters that I should graduate. I understand it's politics, and democracy has given every individual to share their opinions. And to come up with, Alieu Saho's,
So I used to respond to that.
Alieu
Just
Saho's, to Alieu Saho's, point, which he
Nyaninka,
claimed that,
no one is interested on your financial
regarded
Okay,
back.
all
The
right, all right,
constitution
all right,
said
all right,
because you have to be in some state,
all
right?
right, all
You are
right.
now in your 10th
Okay,
semester.
I think
And
I understand that
okay, Darboe, let me
democracy,
intervene. Yes, right, democracy. So that's fine.
which
You'll be given time to respond to that.
inter-
Okay, so now I would allow Ami to move on to
let me
the next section, which is
let me complete.
yes, yes, Manjang. I know this is it's something that
He
you know you have a lot in
made
response.
mention
I know that you have a lot of things that you want.
that more leadership experience than me. But to tell you, and for records, his first leadership position, he sat before me and I interviewed him as Technical and Logistics Minister, where I served as Deputy Chairperson of DA Electoral Commission. So he cannot tell me leadership as well. When we go to community level, I served under VDC and have registered tremendous success. National level, I work with Commission on Political Debate, the only civil society organization that ever staged presidential debate in this country. And University of the Gambia, I
Okay,
serve in
all
different
right.
capacities as well. So when it comes to
Okay,
leadership,
all right.
you shouldn't go there, my brother. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So Alieu and Darboe, he's telling you that it doesn't matter. And okay, we will come to that, Alieu. It's like Alieu smiling when you mention interviewing. I think you were referring to Alieu. It's like
Yes.
because the way he's smiling, so that is intended for him. But it's fine. He will respond. Darboe, I know you also have something to say or something that you want to use to counter Manjang's point. So I will now allow Kaddy to move on to the next section, which is